Hey y'all, welcome back to DC Motorworks. Today I've got in front of me a 2016 BMW X1. This is their hatchback crossover entry-level model. And this client came in for a concern of no heat a few weeks ago. And today I'm going to show you how much of a price point these cars are built to. Let's get started. So with modern cars, with automatic climate control and all the different automations and special features, one of our first places to look for a climate control concern is right here. You've got multiple blend doors, so you've got dual zone climate control. So one side can have hot, one side can have cold, or anywhere in between. And there are blend doors, little flaps buried in the dash here that allow those temperature differentials. And those are known to be issues on other models of vehicles, and hadn't quite seen it on these, but that's one of our first steps. So what we did is check codes there. Didn't find anything. You can see the actual values as you move each temperature dial. You can see each door move, and you can feel a difference in airflow as it's changing the door position. And found no issue there. Next, we look for any warning lights. Had absolutely nothing. There were no codes stored in the engine computer. There was no indication as to why this client was having this issue of no heat. So we started to check the basics. And in order to have heat, you have to have hot coolant running through your heater core. We came over here to the coolant reservoir and found it bone dry, completely empty. Now normally, most European cars will have a level sensor on the coolant reservoir, so that if it gets low, you'll be warned on the cluster. But on this one, they didn't put one. So we put coolant back in it. And the heat magically came back. So we topped this off. We even pressure tested the system. Couldn't find any leaks at that time. But it came back a few weeks later with the same concern. So we knew we had a problem we need to trace down. And what we found is right here. This is the oil filter housing assembly. It also houses the oil cooler, which would be attached here, but we have that removed. If you look here, that piece of plastic has totally disintegrated. So this is your recess for your O-ring for this seal, just like these here. You can see how flat these seals are. This is how it should look, so that it holds your seal in. But this one, completely gone. So the seal had blown out, and this was allowing coolant to leak. And unfortunately, in a place where you can't see it. I know you've seen us complain about plastic in modern cars. This is off a Mercedes-Benz we just did. This is your heater control valve. So this is what shuts off or opens to allow coolant to flow into the heater core. See there? Same thing. Plastic has disintegrated, causing a leak. If you see here, you don't see the oil filter housing. It is buried under the intake here. It actually connects down to this water outlet here. It sits right below that. You can just see the oil cooler, which is right there, you can see more plastic. We've had issues with plastic intake manifolds, and not specifically on this model, but on a lot of Audis. It will actually burn a hole in the intake. The modern Hot V Mercedes engine will actually split these plastic intakes from the boost pressure. Now, you've heard us talk about all these plastic lines. You can see when they start to turn white, it's showing the plastic stress, and they will break. The plastic coolant tanks will disintegrate and break as well. It's just unfortunate to see all this plastic. Makes any job more expensive, because just like this, when you're pulling a lot of this apart, these plastic clips will break, these plastic ends will break. It's everything you touch. So you tell someone, oh yeah, I've got to do this repair for this $10 part, but because of everything I have to remove, that's going to break when I take it off. It doesn't matter how careful you are or anything, it'll break. So you're adding cost to a job. See here, we've also got these plastic valve covers. They will crack and warp also, causing leaks, and a lot of these actually house your positive crankcase ventilation valve, and those will have issues. So you pay $40-odd thousand or so for an entry-level BMW, and that's what you get. Plastic, no warning lights. I'm actually shocked this one, it doesn't even have a temperature gauge. All it has is a dummy light. Go back to the interior, you'll see. See here? You get a miles per gallon gauge, but you get no gauge for coolant temperature. All you get is a tiny little light that says engine hot. So with there being no gauge nor sensor for your coolant level or your coolant temperature, it's very likely this client could have driven this to the point that it overheated and blew the engine in some sort of way, blew a head gasket, or who knows what. The only indication they had was that there was no heat. So if this was in the summertime, if that gauge dummy light didn't come on, they could have caused catastrophic damage to this engine. Just because it saves a few bucks here or there to not have a sensor or a gauge in the cluster.